Start. Oh, hello. Happy forecast day. Hope you had a good family day and that you enjoyed the sunshine and you did some beautiful things as family. Today what we focus on a little connects to family. Let me put this aside for a moment. Oh, and while I'm at it, I'm going to put my MacBook in what we call the default position and maybe push that aside. Once in a while, as staff here, as part of our R&D cycle, we do what we call technology check-ins. So I just put my technology aside, but quite often we're using technology around here, and how we use it is a subject of a lot of conversation. So routinely, as part of our year, we're talking about what we're doing with technology in our building. And our admin team told me, you know, Ted, it would be a good idea for you to extend this conversation, as we sometimes do, with families, because it is pretty critical that today families do technology check-ins. So we're going to talk about our defaults. I just talked about how closing this MacBook was the default position in classes. Students learn that if it's in the default position, it's closed. And actually a pretty hefty percentage of the time, that MacBook is closed, just so you know. It's not open and in use all the time around here. So another thing I would draw to your attention is the conversation about the proper place of technology. So I'm going to share a book with you, Andy Krauss, about the tech-wise family. I'll read a little piece from what he writes in his intro. This book, he says, is a set of nudges or disciplines and choices that keep technology in its proper place, leaving room for the hard work and the beautiful work of becoming wise and courageous people together. He says that in the context of family. Indeed, becoming wise and courageous is what family is really all about. And I would extend that to the school as well. We are a part of that conversation. So The Tech-Wise Family by Andy Crouch. This is a book that every teacher in our school has a copy of and has read through, because they too are in conversations about the tech-wise school. So first thing you need to know is that when we're in conversations around here, we are adjusting our practice all the time. For example, when we began exams a month ago, we targeted ways in which we could adjust to technology. The reality of students coming in with phones that could give them information. Well, we just always have to adjust. So exams is one thing. We've also worked to in most of our classes, I would say, cell phones are collected at the beginning of class so that they're not available or in use during classes. Sometimes they are a benefit, and certainly your kid doesn't have to have a cell phone to show up here. You need to know that too. Student Services is focusing on the impact of technology on student health. That's a big conversation these days. I'm sure you've heard about it too. We have speakers in classes, or in some cases to the whole school, who help us understand the place of technology, how to be wise and discerning users of technology. This is a big deal to us, and we would like to talk about this increasingly with our families. You may remember as families that in your admissions interview when your first kid came here, and you sat right here in my office with me, we talked about how we want to engage parents as partners in what we do here. And there were a bunch of points about that. One of them had to do with technology. And we want to keep that conversation moving. And there are a few specific ways that I would encourage you as families to consider technology and work with us and just work toward a healthy climate in your family. So first of all, we want to just remind parents of the importance of sleep. We all struggle with it. I certainly struggle with it, getting enough sleep. But it's so critical. We are actually learning that. We learn while we sleep. And of course, it's also true that we learn better after we sleep. So sleep is critical. And sometimes technology encroaches on that sleep space. So I would like to encourage you to think about a couple practices in your home that might help. One is, some families choose to shut down all technology at 10 o'clock. Phones, put away. MacBooks, in their default position. We would encourage you as a family to think about that kind of guideline. Obviously, we don't run your families. You make decisions about this. And of course, sometimes there are stresses that will present themselves the next day, like a big test, a paper is due, a project is coming. There are reasons for which you might extend that, but think about how it might help your life as a family and also support us at school by shutting down technology, putting it aside, perhaps at 10 o'clock every night, and allowing the rest to take its shape. God gives us this blessing of rest. We sometimes need simply to receive it with gratitude. Another thing we would encourage you to think about is MacBooks not in bedrooms. And so you know that every student has a MacBook, except for some of our grade 12s. All of them will have them next year. We love what we're doing, but we recognize its drawbacks too. So we encourage you not to send your child to his or her bedroom with a MacBook, and that these be used in the common spaces of the home. We also encourage you to talk about technology a lot. We learn as parents so much from previous generations. I know that I learned a lot as a parent from how my parents raised me and how my grandparents raised my parents. Technology brings such a new element that we as modern parents really don't have a lot to draw on from the way our parents parented us. It's something we need to learn by talking about with other parents and within community. So talk about it a lot. And I do encourage you, I'm going to hold this up in front of the camera one more time. This is Andy Crouch about the Tech-Wise Family. It's a great book for families to read or experience together and engage around. So ponder that. We want to talk about the default position of technology more. In other words, how do we put it aside at times when it's not completely necessary so that we can engage interpersonally with people at school and at home. So a few thoughts about technology. Please send me an email if there's more to add to this conversation, and of course there is, and let's keep talking about it. Last note for today is just a reminder, you've probably heard a lot about it, but our bursary dinner on March 1, we would love to see a lot of you there and enjoy that evening together. Have a great February.